Hi, this is Greg Koopman. Welcome to SSIS 2016, Session 2, Part 3. In this video, I'm going to discuss the following topics. Why am I lost? SSIS package layers. Execute SQL task. Passing variables and parameters. Input placeholders for code. Assigning outputs to variables. Data flow task. Source from variable, destination table, and row error redirection.
It's very easy to get lost to where you are. You say, why? I can't see my stuff. I can't see my stuff. When you can't see your stuff, look up at this tab and see what tab you're on. Okay, because if you're in event handlers, you're in a very specialized area of the code. And to get back to where you started, you got to go back to control flow to get to the main package level. Okay, so always remember that when you get, if you get lost. The first thing I do is I create a current job ID. Okay, and that's really not too complicated. All I'm doing, actually, I'm getting, in this case, this package is downstream, so I actually have already created a job ID for this all these packages during the run. And what this does is all it's going to do is go in and ask for that ETL job table and give me the max job ID, because it's an identity column. It's going to be always the largest one, where job equals, and again you see that question mark, that means I'm passing something in. So job equals a job name, so I could be running different jobs. So if I could be running one for one restaurant, one for another restaurant, and it'll just pick up whatever the max is, so you can run them both at the same time. Okay, so that because they both have different IDs. Okay, so you get your ID number, and as you see there, once you get it, you're going to, this is the parameter mapping that you sent into it. Now, you know, in a stored procedure, you're able to do all your input parameters and output parameters. You can do that here. There's another way you can take the output, and that's from a result set. So what I'm doing here is in the code, in the general, where I run the code, I say my result set, I'm going to bring back a single row of data. Okay. I can also set it to a full result set. Okay, a full table, or XML, or none. In this case, I'm bringing back a single row, because all I'm doing is bringing back the max ID number. And again, this stuff there's a lot going on. I'm telling you, a lot of stuff, so it's going to be recorded so you can watch it slowly and review it if you need to. So, but anyways, this code, this is typical SQL code. I say this is a table. This is going to have a result set with one row in it that's called vJobID, right? That's the name of the column. Okay, so when I told it it's going to bring back a result set of one single row, so I go here and I type in my result name, which is vJobID, right? And I assign that to one of my variables, so I can come in here and assign those to variables. Okay, and that's where I do that, and then I use this variable throughout the rest of the package to assign things whereas needed, a lot in error messages or wherever it needs to be. So here we go. We come into this truncate stage error table, and you see there's a couple. Again, these are SQL tasks, like I said before, or they show here. They already have them under favorites because it's used so much. So right here, it's very simple. We just do a truncate table, right, for the stage, and I truncate the table for the error part of that, because you know if there's errors, we're going to put it in there. So next we go to full-based loads, table loads. So really we're just doing, in this package, we're doing one table load, and it's called the micro item master. And I click there, and what's going to happen is that when it comes in here, here's data flow, here's your source, and here's your destination. So if I double click on the source, you'll see that there's some data that I'm pulling. This is the data I'm pulling from the production system, right? And you can go and preview it and see some of that data, okay? But you notice here I have data access mode, it says access mode from variable. Now, if I pull from table, it'd pull the whole table. Well, I don't want to pull the whole table. I want to pull just a portion of the table, because the table, you know, every day we're going to do an incremental load. So we only want to pull the latest data that's available, right? So there's some logic to that thing. So what I do is I set up a variable, and I concatenate a lot of from the parameter names, from the brand code name, and I combine those into a variable, and I use a variable, and I'm going to run it from that variable, the data in that variable. So if we go over here, you see SQL Micros Item Master Variable. See the V in front of it? And there's all these variables that come up here. I'm saying pull it from a variable. So I'm saying command from a variable, right? So it's set to that. I selected that variable name, and that's where naming standards are important. And we'll just go look at that real quick. So if I go to variable, look at that variable, which is right SQL master. Again, it's part of an expression, and being part of the expression, notice I'm concatenating the select. This is where your coding is going to come in a lot. And what I'm doing, actually, I'm putting in a fudge number in here. I want this to error out later. I'm going to tell you why later. But I'm forcing this into the product ID. And then I just pull the product name, the cat, and these from ETL micro a view that's over on the production server, or test server in this case. So I'm pulling from that view where the brand code equals, and notice this part, this is your project brand code. That's your parameter. So here, if you go in here, you see here's all your parameters. And notice they say project, they don't say package. So they're the project level. Also in here you have your user variables. So you can use a combination of parameters and variables to construct your SQL command. So here I'm saying this is going to equal LM, and the brand code, and so that's why we only pull in LM type LM data. Okay, so that's how that's constructed. So once I pull that in, that's the source, right? So the destination is going to be this thing called stage micro item master. So and here's the mapping. So basically we want their names the same, so I'm able to map them one directly against the other right in here. So I map them. Now, what are these other things here? These red arrows and stuff. Well, these are if an error happens. So let's say there's 1,000 or 2,000 items that are going to go through, records that are going to go through here. Well, what happens if there's an error? Well, if there's an error up here, and let's say there's a text file, for example, and you tell it that the text is always going to be, it's delimited, and there's going to be 10 characters in this one max, 10 in the next one, 10 in the next one. Well, if the text file comes down to row 50 and there's 12, it's going to draw an error here, and it's going to then route it and log it. The red arrow says if there's an error in here, come over here, get the column name that the error happened on. Here I have to do a data conversion and then stick it into the error table. Okay, for that. So what this is that, and here when you go to the destination, let's say it covers this one fine, which is actually the example I'm going to show. In here I tell it I can take up to 60 characters for the ID. But here I tell it can only take 50. So when I put in those numbers, I put in the 1 through there, I put 60 in here. Mm-hmm. So that would force it, so when it comes down, it won't error here because it's okay, it's within the range. So it won't error there. But once it hits here, it's going to error because it's going to be too big for that column. And once it gets too big for the column, it's going to come down here and do the error handling and put it into the error table. So we'll know what column it errored on. Because let's say you have 1 million rows and you have 300 columns. You don't know where it errored. You need to know what column it errored on, and you want to see all the information on that so you can go back and find it and correct it maybe. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's what this error handling is doing.